Hey there, welcome to my channel. You know, in my time, I reviewed quite a few styli for e-ink note-taking devices. In fact, here is basically my stylus cup, and I've reviewed most, if not nearly all, of these styluses at one point or another. So I have quite a bit of experience with different styli. And the stylus that comes with Viwoods has always been one of my favorites for a number of reasons. First off, it has an end cap eraser that works really well. I've had a lot of styluses where you have to put pressure down on the end cap eraser, and I'm not a fan of that at all. It's got a good, thickness to the shaft. It's not the thickest out there. That would probably be the Lamney All-Star. But it's up there, and it's pretty good. I don't feel uncomfortable writing with it. It's got a recessed section here where the button goes, and that's nice. I still on occasion accidentally hit the button, but much less than on other styluses. And so I like that design. And just the way that it works with the Viwoods device is really excellent. So I've always been a big fan of this stylus. There is, however, one particular weakness of it, which is a rattle. And that's been the one major drawback on the stylus. For some people, they really hate that rattle. For me, it's more white noise. I've just kind of gotten used to it, but it's definitely a flaw with the original design. So I was surprised when Viwoods reached out to me and basically gave me two new styli. This is what they call their W2 series. There's an upgraded version of the original, and then there's this new version that has a ceramic tip. That's really interesting because until then, as far as I know, the only company that used a ceramic tip was Supernote. This is the second time a manufacturer has released a stylus with a ceramic tip. Keep in mind that most devices, you use a ceramic tip, it'll tear up the screen, so you need a special film. But as it turns out, you can use this ceramic tip on the Viwoods with no additional protection on the screen. So let's go ahead and start looking at the details of these new styli, and then I'll give you some of my final thoughts at the end. So here are the original stylus, the upgraded version of the original, both using plastic tips, and then finally we've got our ceramic tipped nib right here. This original is a little bit different than the others in that it's a little shorter and then it has a lighter color scheme. And we'll take a closer look at the colors in conjunction with the device a little bit later in the video. But if we put those two differences aside, and obviously the difference of the one having the ceramic nib, the form of them are identical beyond that. They are all of equal thickness. They all have the same type of end cap eraser. They all have Viwoods here on kind of the flattened edge of the stylus, a little bit of a dip in the indentation here where the button rests. That repeats itself on the second version of the old stylus, and then it goes to the new nibbed stylus as well. So basic design language continues with the new styli. So just a quick comment about the color of the stylus. Here is the original, and the one thing that you'll note is that while the color scheme of the original stylus certainly was still in the family of the other colors that you see here, it didn't actually match. It didn't match the bezel of the device, it didn't match the spine, and it doesn't match the screen either. Not a huge deal, but the new stylus is a little more in tune with the device, and I'll go ahead and attach it here. And what you'll notice is that this coloring is very similar to the coloring of the spine. It's a small deal, but I think it is a minor improvement over what we had originally. I should also point out that the original stylus has a smooth shaft, while the new one has a little bit of a textured grip, and that's true either for the plastic or the ceramic nib. In theory, this is supposed to help with grip. I find that I can grip the two styluses equally well. I don't see much of a difference, but I do appreciate a little bit of the texture that comes with the new styli. In terms of the nibs, there's a slight difference between what we had before and what we have now. Here on the top is a set of nibs that came with the stylus when the Viwoods first came out. And you'll notice that most of the tips have this metal shaft, and those are the soft tips, the ones that tend to wear out quicker. And then the hard tips are the ones here on the edge that are all black. The equivalent of the soft tips are these ones over here that are kind of shaped a little bit like a torpedo. And these actually have pretty much the exact same sound on the screen. And then the hard tip, here it has a little triangle at the top, is pretty much the same as what we had before with the hard tips here in terms of sound. So while the new tips look different than the old tips, in terms of what they sound like on the screen, it's pretty much the same. So next I'm just going to do a little bit of a sound check to try to pick up the differences between the different tips. We're going to start off with the new soft tip. I'm going to put the microphone as close as I can to the device and see if we can discern. It will be subtle, but maybe we can pick it up. Okay, that's the soft tip. Now let's try the hard tip. So not a tremendous difference, but you do notice a little bit of a harder sound with the soft tip. Let's go ahead then and finish with the ceramic nib. Hopefully this got picked up by the microphone, but there's a pretty distinct sound to the ceramic nib. It's a little bit harsher. It's not too harsh, but it certainly sounds much more pronounced than either the soft or the hard nib. You might have noticed that the new set of nibs, at least the ones I received, didn't have a removal tool. But as it turns out, it really isn't necessary. If you take your fingers and you pinch at the base of the nib, like so, you can pull out the nib easily enough, and you can insert the nib quite easily as well. We're going to insert it like this, push it in part of the way, and then I'm going to go ahead and press it on the screen to push it the remainder of the way. It's as easy as that. In coordination with the new styluses, there is a new setting that allows you to change some of the settings on the pen, particularly the button, and this applies to both the new as well as the old pens. I was originally informed that the old pens wouldn't work with this new setup, but I actually confirmed that they do. So if we go into settings and we go into pen and gestures, you'll notice that there is a pen button settings that's new, and if I click on that, here is basically what you can do. So the first thing is if you're over 1 centimeter away and you click on the button, so if I tap on the button now, when I approach the screen, it will then erase the screen. But if within 1 centimeter, it will do whatever behavior I select, and in this particular case, I selected the lasso. So let's see that in action. Okay, so first I'm going to go ahead and press the button, and I'm going to get down here to where it says hi, and I'll just go ahead and erase it, like so. But now I'm going to press the button where I'm close to the screen, and I'm going to circle, and there's my lasso tool. So that's an example of the new button functionality in action. Okay, just a couple things I want to point out in addition to what we just saw, and these are a couple of the attributes that Viwoods is highlighting with these new styli, and specifically they're saying that the new styli have better tip stability and are smoother and more precise. I didn't personally see any difference with the new styli versus the old styli in regard to those two dimensions, and I didn't have any issues with those other things either. So for me, it was the same and both excellent, the old and the new. So I didn't see any improvements there, but I did want to at least comment that Viwoods was indicating those, in theory, are improvements to the stylus. But what about the major flaw of the original stylus? Remember in the intro, I talked about the rattle. So this is the original stylus again. So let's see how that compares with the new version of the plastic tip stylus. You can barely hear it, just a touch. I'm not even sure it's going to come up on the microphone. And what about the ceramic nib? Okay, a little bit more. So basically, in order, this has the most rattle, the original. The ceramic nib is next, and almost no rattle with the new version of the plastic nib stylus. So there you go. What are my thoughts overall? You know, it was a little weird to use it at first, the ceramic nib, but after about a month of usage, it's easily my favorite stylus of the three, and of course that makes it one of my favorite stylus of all time. The new button functionality is excellent. It takes a, I never used the button really because I was so happy with the end cap eraser, so I didn't need the button to erase. So being able to use the button now as a lasso tool is perfect. That's a definite benefit of the new software. So yeah, I'm pretty bullish. I think the original Stylus is still excellent. You don't necessarily need to feel compelled to upgrade. If you do want to upgrade to the new plastic one if you don't like the rattle. But if you want a different experience and more of an auditory feedback as you write, then the ceramic nib is for you, and you never have to replace the ceramic nib unless it gets broken, if say in a fall or whatever. But it should last a long time. So that's my overall assessment of the styluses. If you've got any questions, pop those in the chat. I'll try to answer as best I can. And let's go over to a little bit of bonus coverage of a feature that's not related to the stylus, but it is related to the latest beta of the software that I think is pretty cool. Before we close out this video, I wanted to show one last thing that's not related to the stylus, and that's the ability to customize the home screen. Now, ever since Viwoods came out, they've allowed for this 2x3 grid that has your note-taking over here, your calendar over here, meeting notes here, learning, or that would be your document reading here, and then your picking here, followed by finally by your apps here. But you can now change that. I'm going to go ahead and long press here on the top bar, and then this screen will come up. And you can see there's 3 different templates that are available. I can either stick with that 2x3 grid, I can go with 3 rows, or I can go with 2 rows and 2 boxes below, which they call a combination mode. Let's go ahead and pick that mode. I'm going to go ahead and select continue. Now all modes then come to a screen similar to this, where it shows that design in action, and it shows the default settings for each of the groups, but that can be changed. So here we have paper, daily, which is the calendar, picking, and apps. So let's say that I don't want picking. I can click on the minus. I can go ahead and get rid of that, and it's only getting rid of that for this particular view. I can bring it back if I wanted, nothing's deleted. I can click on add application, and then any of the remaining items that haven't already been selected are available to me. That includes not just the meeting, learning, and picking, which we saw before, but the ability to do a memo, as well as the ability to put your email in there. Let's go ahead and do the email, and we'll confirm that. And there we go. If I click complete, that just takes me then to the screen active. So I can now customize my home screen using this process.